Hello, my name is Glenn Ashworth with Alto Aviation. Today I'm going to show you how to load files to configure, test, and troubleshoot Alto relay and temperature controllers. We're going to start by opening Alto Forte Verifier here. If you're connecting to an amplifier, you would select this AltoNet tab here. We'll be connecting to controllers, so we'll be connecting to multi-net here. You want address enable checked. We'll go to our settings tab, and then you want to, sometimes you'll have multiple ports listed here. I like to go to this ports tab, hit refresh, and then go ahead and plug in my controllers here. You should have them powered up. I'll hit refresh. You can see COM8 appeared. You want to make sure these multi-net addresses to scan are checked here. Typically 1 through 12 is sufficient unless you have more controllers than that present. You want to make sure scan group, RC, and TC are checked. Once you have all that properly configured, we'll hit connect, the green button up here. You'll see it found RC's relay controllers 1 through 8 and 2 temperature controllers. If you do not find any controllers, you may have an issue with the drivers, may need to reinstall, or something else. You can give us a call if you get stuck at this step. I'll go to configuration tab first and press refresh here. You should see all your parameters load. Oftentimes, if there's a new configuration that needs to be loaded, we'll provide that via email and provide this video, and you can go ahead and click load here. Select the text file you want. You'll select open. The new parameters will be loaded in here. You'll select write all. And then finally you'll hit unit reset to make sure you're starting fresh here. Alternatively, if you're making changes to this config table here, testing out some different parameters, and you're happy with the result, you can go ahead and save it again to a text file. You can name it your aircraft serial number that you're working on, and you can provide it to us, and we'll store it in our records. In the event a controller ever fails and needs to be replaced, the controllers are labeled appropriately. G4 serial number 1234, for example, relay controller number 5. So that way, if that comes back to us, we know the proper file to load at that point. So once you've loaded everything, saved it, we'll go to our status page here. I like to turn on auto refresh so we can see everything as it changes. You should see at least one of these 28 volt power inputs present. Looks like we got 25 volts here. We do have settings which are occasionally used where only certain relays or indicators are active when power is present on a certain number of these pins here. So on the right hand side, we've got all of the inputs, A1 through A8, B1 through B8, C1 through C8. So if you have a reading light switch connected to input A1 and you press that reading light switch, you should see, if you press and hold, you'll see A1 with a checkbox here. I'll press this remote switch, and you see here we have A1 filled in. I release the mouse. You can release the key, the reading light switch in the cabin. You should see that check mark go away. And you see we have relay 1 turned on here. If you find any of these input statuses are always checked, you may have something shorted to ground or some other issue going on. If you know your switch is always grounded, you can check the functionality of the keypad, or you can check the functionality of the relay controller at that point. So you want to make sure each input, each switch does what it's designed to do. Typically, you'll do that. You'll check it against the interface document, which is aircraft specific. It's usually an Excel doc which has each of these definitions for each of these inputs and what relay and indicators they should affect. So this is a good place to test all your functionality, see if your switches are coming in. Again, see if when they do come in, the proper function is executed, your relays close, your indicators light up as desired. If they don't, or you want to look at the settings, you can go back to configuration here. We can go to our config designer tab. If you haven't previously loaded the parameters, you may need to hit refresh here before going to config designer. So config designer gives you a nice GUI where you have all of your inputs listed here. So we click on input A1, we see we have toggle. Toggle is relay 1, status 1. Hold off time would be if you want to wait, you have to press and hold before the function occurs. Occasionally you want to use this for an air stare. You're going to hold the button down for 2 seconds before the motor starts, something of that nature. So you can go through each one of these inputs. Toggle, you want your input pulled up if it's a ground trigger. You would turn that off if you had a 28 volt trigger. Typically invert is off, gate select is pin, startup detect is off. If you had a signal that was set and you wanted to read it on startup, you would turn this to on. Typically you don't want to start reading those inputs until everything's powered up. And we can go to input function summary. And we can see all of the functions for all the inputs. We've got settings for power mask here. Occasionally these are used. You can make certain relays inactive depending upon what power is present on which bus. Typically we keep all of our A inputs pulled up to 28 volts. And then we have startup restores, which are commonly used. Cold simply means after 90 seconds. Warm means less than 90 seconds. So if you did restore, that would mean you retain the relay state. So if relay 1 is closed and then you shut the thing off, shut the controller off for 2 minutes, power back up, it will remember this relay state. Alternatively, you could always have relay 1 start up on if you'd like. Typically everything's off, but if you put a check here, relay 1 would start up on if the device was powered off for 2 minutes. Same for relay, warm restore, warm on off, and for the statuses as well.